Hello and welcome to the Gooner Talk, back again with you guys for another episode of what is the Arsenal Transfer Show, joining you every morning throughout the course of this summer transfer window at 8 a.m. UK time, keeping you up to date with everything that's going on in the world of Arsenal transfers. Yes, this is the first episode of this summer. The Arsenal News Show has finished. We are now in the throes of the transfer window build up, if you like. It doesn't actually open until, the start of July. Well, transfers can still get done, but they can't get kind of like announced officially, if you like, or they can't get, what's the word, registered? I think registered is the right word, until the 1st of July. So we'll be talking about all of the rumours, giving you our thoughts, our theories on them. If I've got any information, I'll try and do my best to inform you on that as well. And I look forward to breaking down our transfer targets as well. I really do look forward to that, because there is a number of things that I'm going to learn about this summer, as I'm sure you are. There's targets that we're going to learn about, players that we don't necessarily know too much about at all, that we're going to be learning plenty of. So yes, let's crack on with today's show. But do subscribe, do drop a like on the video, and join us every single morning with your breakfast, with your tea, your coffee, or if you're on the other side of the world, with your dinner, to find out what's going on in the world of Arsenal. Jose, good morning to you. Good morning to Matt. Good morning to Martin. Good morning to Daniel. Granddaddy Gooner. Good morning to NSW. Good morning to Olu, MJ10, Keens, Blackshine. Good morning. And thank you, Blackshine. I'm glad that you enjoyed yesterday's show. The morning transfer shows indeed are back. I say back. I feel like we've been talking transfers for weeks anyway. It's just kind of a change of name. It's the only real change to the morning shows. It's just a change of name. Keems, good morning to you, to Steve, to other Steve, and to Stephen. I love this. I love that all the Steves and Stevens just leave their morning messages at exactly the same time. I mean, you need to coordinate. I think you need to create like a group chat. We've got a Stephen Shah, we've got a Stephen Johnson, a Steve Stone, we've got a Steve Hartland, a Stevie Lim. I think there's other Steves as well. Bring all the Steves. We love Steves and everyone else as well. Have you given that little what's the video, that animal thing that's like the little what is it? It's like a woodchuck. Is that what it is? And it's like Steve, Alan. That's what I'm thinking of. That's all I think of when I see that name. So, yes, indeed. Monkaberry says 50k subs over the summer. Fingers crossed. Let's see if we can get to 50k. I do want to kind of do a live event celebrating 50k subs if indeed we reach that milestone. So if we do look like we're getting close to it, maybe we'll have to sort out a live show in London at some point. That'd be great. Thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in. I've gone on and waffled for 3 minutes, so let's crack on with today's stories. First of all, let me direct you to yesterday evening's show. If you haven't yet watched it, we did a live show talking about Sacha, Boey. I was joined by Reece Turnalar, who is a Turkish football expert doing some work for Sportcell. So if you haven't yet given that a watch and you don't know too much about the young French fullback playing for Galatasaray that's linked with Arsenal this summer, 20 to 25 million euros is supposedly the subscribe. I was reading comments while talking at the same time. Is the supposed price tag that he'll be after. But if you need to know about him, if you don't know much about him, some really good, interesting facts about him in there. And I saw a lot of good feedback on social media. And a big thank you again to Reece for helping us out with that. But this is the first of many tactical breakdown shows that we will be doing. I'm also keen on doing a lot of dedicated kind of shows, I think, on loan players or youth players to educate us about as well. So that might be a possibility too. Moving forwards, Inter Milan, AC Milan, Leipzig, Monaco, Marseille, all clubs that are interested in Folarin Balogun this summer. Obviously, Tom Boggett, the MLS and American football expert, reporting these stories. There's lots of interest in the player. Arsenal will hope that this sparks something of a bidding war for the striker if they are going to sell him, which I think is most likely at this stage. And I think we can kind of all expect at this stage that it will indeed be the case. But yes, he is going to command hopefully a figure upwards of £30 million. That's what Arsenal will be hoping for after a very good season with Reims in France. But I look forward to hopefully seeing a significant amount of money brought into the club through Balogun sale, if indeed he does leave, which is not guaranteed, but it does look like the most likely outcome at the moment. Arsenal are said to be monitoring Matheus Franca, but no bid or talks have taken place so far, according to Fabrizio Romano. Is a player that a lot of teams are interested in. Newcastle are said to be one of the other ones as well, and made a bid actually apparently for him in January, I believe. But no bid or talks from Arsenal at the moment. Just monitoring the player. They would have obviously known about that. Edu was at a charity match last night and talking specifically about how busy he would be. And I imagine that a lot of that will be his Brazilian contacts. Arsenal's links to Brazil are very strong, hence why we've managed to get a good contingent of Brazilian players in. And we'll welcome back Marquinhos, of course, who continues to be away with the under-20s at the World Cup as well. But Matheus Franca only monitoring, no bid or talks at this moment in time, I'm afraid. And there are said to be significant interest, however, in James Maddison. Leicester were relegated from the Premier League this season after several years, staving off relegation, winning a title, then falling all the way down the table again, sacking their manager, Brendan Rodgers, to bring in Dean Smith, which just seems like such a strange decision. But James Maddison is set to lead what is going to be a significant exodus of their top stars like Harvey Barnes and the like. And they are going to hopefully get a lot of money. I don't mind Leicester. I have quite a lot of time for Leicester, mainly because of their very nice press lounge that I won't be visiting next season unless, of course, we get them in the cup competitions. But Arsenal has said that if they want Maddison, according to John Cross of the Mirror, that they might need to sell first in order to get him. Now, I don't think that's because of money. I don't think that's a money thing. I think that's a player thing. Because if you think about it, Arsenal's attacking midfield options. We've got Odegaard, we've got Fabio Vieira, we've got Emile Smith-Rowe. And yes, I understand he could play the left 8 role. That's the way I'm interpreting it. There wasn't really too much in terms of clarification, but that's the way I've interpreted this, because money-wise, I think Arsenal would be fine. 40 to 45 million pounds is said to be the asking price of Leicester, potentially up to 50 million pounds. Maybe we'll have to wait and see if Arsenal indeed do need to sell first. But we have got a lot of attacking midfield-minded players, as I say, Smith, Odegaard, Vieira. If you offered me 20 million for Vieira right now, I'd probably take it and spend that money on half of Maddison's price. But we'll have to wait and see if indeed anything changes in the summer. Now, Man City, according to, again, Fab Romano, saying that they are ready to sell Joao Cancelo this summer. The Portuguese international is out of favour with the champions and could make a move to another club this summer. And that club could be Arsenal. Arsenal are one of those teams that are monitoring the situation, have got him on their list of potential fullbacks, and they do want to sign a fullback this summer. He's a player that, as we all know, has got plenty of talent, has not had the easiest of times over the course of the last season. But what I would say is that at the age of 29, nearly, I think, if not already, he is, whatever age he is that age until he turns the next one. But you are going to be investing a lot of money in a player that you're not going to get any money back for. If there are players out there that Arsenal can invest in that keep their value, like Sacha Boey, for instance, like Ivan Fresneda, potentially, maybe that's the better route to go down. But what Cancelo will give you is guaranteed quality, even with the difficulties and struggles that he's had. So Man City, if they will sell to Arsenal is the next question. Of course, they've already seen Alexander Zinchenko and, of course, Gabriel Jesus go to have some really, really good success at Arsenal already. Would they be willing to do that again? Maybe for the right price. We'll have to wait and see. Now, our penultimate story of the day is on Moises Caicedo, the Ecuadorian international Brighton midfielder. Roberto De Zerbi already confirming that he will indeed likely move on this summer, and it's time for him to move on, apparently, to play at a higher level. Arsenal are still said to be interested in the player. Romano confirmed this yesterday. But however, Chelsea do still have Caicedo on their own list of midfielders. It is interesting, they've already spent about 100 million on Enzo Fernandez, and yet that interest remains in Caicedo. Arsenal, of course, had bids in January, rejected up to 70 million pounds for Caicedo. Would they be willing to bring in the player for more? Would they invest more in him with regard to the amount of 80 million pounds? Maybe even more than that. It depends how much Brighton want to part with him. It seems Alexis McAllister is going to be leaving for Liverpool this summer, but are Arsenal going to be able to get hold of Caicedo for a figure that they can afford and be able to get other targets as well? One of those targets, of course, being Declan Rice, who received reportedly a phone call, according to Florian Pletterberg in Germany, from Thomas Tuchel, the Bayern Munich head coach, who, of course, just won the Bundesliga in dramatic fashion after Borussia Dortmund bottled the league title challenge. Rice said to be open to the idea of potentially moving to Bayern, but continually sources have claimed that Arsenal remain favourites to sign Rice this summer, that they are ahead of any other side in the race, the amount of work they've put into this transfer. Apparently behind the scenes, talks going on behind the scenes to try and get Rice. I did a piece yesterday for Football.London talking and discussing the idea around Edu and the fact that, for me, he has to, absolutely has to, get one of Rice or Caicedo for me this summer. One of those two has to come into Arsenal this summer, because otherwise, questions again are going to be asked about whether Arsenal under Edu can bring in their priority targets. We absolutely have to bring one of Rice or Caicedo through the doors, and if we can do that, then that's obviously a fantastic success in the window. But you have to be able to bring one of those two in. It's very clear that Arsenal have a significant interest in both of those players. And if we fail to bring in both of them, I can accept not bringing in both because they're very expensive and there are similarities between the two. But you have to be able to bring in one of those. If you fail to do that, it is going to be looked upon as a really big, damaging start to the window. So let's wait and see if indeed Arsenal are successful, and we'll continue to bring you updates on this deal as and when we get them. Right, let's go to part 2 and your questions right after this. Right then, if you are new to the Arsenal Transfer Show and this is your first time joining us, we split these shows into 2 parts. The first part is all the roundup of the latest news from the last 24 hours. And part 2 is where we jump into the chat box and we tackle as many of your questions as we can get through. Bit of a heads up, tomorrow morning there is not going to be a live 8 a.m. show. There might be a pre-recorded one. I haven't been able to decide whether or not we're going to be able to record a pre-record for tomorrow's show. Potentially there might be one of them. But there won't be this version of the show. Reason being is if all goes good and well, I will be achieving a genuine lifelong, is that the right term? Lifelong. Childhood, that's the word. Well, maybe not childhood, because the stadium wasn't actually built when I was a child. But I am going to hopefully, if indeed I'm fit enough, going to be turning out to play at the Emirates Stadium tomorrow. And there will hopefully be some video evidence of this. There's a media day going on, and there's going to be some 7-a-side tournament at the Emirates for a lot of the journalists. And I've got a decent team. My team's all right. Me and Mr. Charles Watts are going to be trying to do our best to get our team as far through this tournament as we can. I've been doing, you may have seen, if you follow me on Strava, you would have seen that I'm doing a lot of mile runs at lunchtime, trying to build up my fitness. If you're not following us on Strava, you can join our club, www.strava.com/clubs/ESARP. I haven't done one for the last couple of days because I've been working, but I'll be doing one at lunchtime today before tomorrow. I don't know, Marcus, if Edu is going to be watching. I really kind of hope that he's not. I don't need to be confirmed to be the next right-sided centre-back to back up William Saliba, and I think anything that he sees tomorrow is only going to, if anything, harm the appeal of that. But yes, there's no trains tomorrow. It's a whole train strike day tomorrow, so I'm getting up very early in the morning to drive up to London and then get tubes across to get there in time. So that's why there's no 8 a.m. show, because unfortunately the trains are non-existent. But yes, I'm looking forward to hopefully getting you some video content of that. Our good friend Mike from the Gooners pod, I've managed to get in as a spectator, so he's going to be there and watching. But yeah, we've got a pretty decent team. James from Arscast is going to be on the team as well. And yeah, I look forward to hopefully showing you some good stuff. We're going up against some of our our journalistic rivals on some of the other teams. Obviously, I can't say who's on the other teams yet because they may not be there. But there's some good names, some big names on the opposition team sheet. So let's see how it goes. Right. Dan says, can I score more goals this season at the Emirates or at a Premier League ground than Mudryk this season? We'll have to wait and see. I am going to volunteer to play at the back, though. I am more of a right back / right-sided centre-back, to be fair. That's where I finished my playing career of 11 aside. So we'll have to wait and see. And actually, on Friday, if I'm not injured, I'm actually going to be playing at Molineux, the Wolves Stadium as well, for a charity football match. You've probably seen me tweeting about that, but I was very kindly invited to take part in a charity football match on Friday in support of Calm, the charity. So that will be, I think, streamed as well. So you'll be able to see how bad I am in a live stream format. So a lot of football going on this week, which is why I need to significantly improve my fitness. Rich, thank you so much for becoming a brand new member. Really appreciate the kind support or continuation of your membership, if indeed. StreamYard never tells me if you're a new member or a continuing member, but I absolutely know, Rich, you've been listening to the channel for a very long time. Dan says, when are we going to be involved in soccer aids? Goodness me. Imagine that. 2-foot in Lee Mack. Richard says, Clive is always saying he wants a tall right back, so maybe I might fit the bill. Might need to trim down a bit, though. Oh, Richard's coming in with the flair. Yeah, but you're right. I can't even disagree. I am going to have to trim down a little bit. Carrying a little bit of extra timber from, I was going to say Christmas, but I think the more accurate is probably the rest of my life. It's probably the more accurate way of putting it. Onyx Lens says, what would be the perfect summer window? Perfection is something that we obviously want to strive for. Perfect, obviously, Rice and Caicedo. I think, an attacking midfield would be that, like a James Maddison would be fantastic. Mohamed Simikan to add that right-sided ability. I'd sign Rafa Guerrero on a free, but maybe Cancelo if you're going for perfect. And I think a forward as well, Randall Kolo Muani would be my number one pick at the moment, but very expensive. So a perfect summer sounds like that to me, but I think that would be a 300, maybe even 400 million pound summer transfer window, which I'm not sure I can see that much being spent. Rich says, yes, not new. Something funny happened with my membership while I was traveling and I had to wait to get back till I could fix it. Well, Rich, I appreciate you getting on that straight away and continuing to support the channel. So that is very much appreciated indeed. Jaya Sura says, Vlahovic, is there any chance of us signing him? There's always a chance, but there's been no suggestion that Arsenal are going to be going for the Serbian forward again. They tried for him, of course, as we know, in January of last season. Well, I say last season. Last season was the season just gone. The season before last. That's going to get some getting used to, isn't it? Saying that last season was just the one that we came second in. But the season before last, in 21-22, we tried, didn't we, in that January transfer window. We couldn't get the player through the door, and we were already in talks at that point with Gabriel Jesus as well, and we ended up getting him. But maybe we will revive that interest this summer. We'll have to wait and see. Alpha says, Tom, I think Moani is going to be signing for Bayern. I hope not, but it's difficult not to see that happening. Oh, the TGT sneeze getting in there. I think I muted myself in time, so you were spared. But I need to just tidy the studio. It's clearly the reason. I sneeze a lot. It needs a dusting, quite frankly, but there's a lot of stuff. When I've just got a lot of stuff that I need to clear out, but a lot of dust is clearly forming. Sam says, who are the top 3 transfers this summer, Tom? And who would you go and get? That's a really, really good question. If only someone had written an article, about kind of like the top 5, I don't know, maybe the top 5 signings that are free this summer. That'd be great, wouldn't it? If someone had written in an entire piece talking about, oh, you know what? I actually have. I'll leave a link to that down in the description and, of course, in the chat box as well, if you would like to go and read that. But I'll give you 2 of my top 5 free transfers. Number 1, I've already talked about a hell of a lot, so it's no surprise, and that's Rafael Guerrero of Borussia Dortmund. He would be my number 1 pick in terms of a left back to replace Kieran Tierney. And the other one on my list is Daichi Kamada. Of course, Arsenal have got interest in bringing in an attacking midfielder. AC Milan are said to be leading the race for the Japanese international at the moment, but I think it would be a great option for Arsenal to bring in as an attacking option as well, Daichi Kamada. So he would be, him and Guerrero. But there are 3 other players on that list that I've written about. Go and have a read of it on FL. Wellness with Wallace says, Tom, do you think Smith Rowe still has a future at Arsenal? 2 years ago, he was close to Maddison, and we already have him. Look, I think Smith Rowe, again, I get asked this probably about every show now, and my opinion hasn't changed. I think that he remains a player that I'd love to see flourish at Arsenal, but I'm not ruling out an exit. If Arsenal are given a bid that is significant enough, maybe they would be tempted into selling Emil Smith-Rowe. So we'll have to wait and see. Omar says, isn't Kamada going to Dortmund? There was suggestions that was happening, but that's fallen away quite significantly. At the moment, AC Milan are said to be the team leading the race for Kamada. So at the moment, Dortmund that kind of fell away quite quickly, it seems. They bottled that like the league, if you like. I love saying it because I know it's wound up so many Arsenal fans that I just can't get my head around, that are desperate to tell people that Arsenal bottled the league somehow. I really can't get my head into that mindset. I really can't. But a lot of people are really keen on telling other Arsenal fans we bottled the league. So, we didn't do that, guys. Just for the records, that certainly did not happen. Jabu says, if West Ham want Balogun, would you include him in a deal for Rice? Yes, of course. If you can get like 30 to 40 million pounds off the Rice price tag, I don't see why you wouldn't do that. That would make complete sense. Rich says, could Guerrero potentially also cover Granit Xhaka? Yes, he could. There is evidence, plenty of evidence, in fact, that he could. He won the Player of the Month for March in the Bundesliga for playing in a kind of creative central midfield position like Xhaka does. So absolutely, Guerrero could potentially bring in some depth for that. Spartan says, is Xhaka leaving? Any new reports? Which positions do you think we should target to either replace or reinforce? To my understanding, yes, he will be going to Bayer Leverkusen this summer, it seems. In terms of players to replace him, Rice and Caicedo are the 2 central midfielders that we're looking at, and obviously they can be used in either of a 6 or a number 8 position. Also, Arsenal are interested in the creative midfielder. It seems that Mason Mount was the number 1 that they wanted, but I don't think that's going to be as feasible as maybe they had hoped with the price tag that's being asked for by Chelsea. Potentially James Maddison, it seems, will be an alternative that they could see brought in to that left 8 role as well. Sean says, hey Tom, would you rather take Asensio or Ansu Fati? That's a great question because both players, of course, young prodigies that have had serious injuries affect their careers. I feel like Ansu Fati is the riskier option because his injuries have just been so repetitive. If I'll have a look at his injury record now, it's really, really quite poor. His last injury was this. To be fair, he only missed a couple of games through injury this season, but missed in 21-22. He missed 3, 5, 16, 28, 35 matches. In 2021, he missed 47 because of a meniscal or mensical laceration. And he missed, a significant amount of time because of those knee issues. So I lean towards a bit Asensio because I think he's more reliable from a fitness perspective than Fati, but both are good options. But Fati's going to cost you money and Asensio is going to cost you nothing because he's going on a free this summer. Christopher says, is Frankie de Jong realistic? I don't think so because I don't think he wants to move away from Barcelona, but stranger things have happened. We'll wait and see. Let's go to Kelvin says, am I the only one who thinks highly of Xavi Simons? He'd be a great replacement for Granit Xhaka. The difficulty with Xavi Simons, Kelvin, is the fact that PSG have a buyback clause in that deal that has seen him move to PSV. If any club comes in for him at PSG, you'd imagine would activate that buyback clause, and then you've got to renegotiate with the French club. So it's going to be very difficult and expensive, but he's a very, very talented young player, and certainly one if Arsenal could get would be a great asset to the team going forwards. Steve says, Adama Traore looks the biz against us. What do you think? I didn't think he looked great at all, Steve. I thought he had one good run, and that was it. And maybe that's what we're thinking of. But Adama Traore's time in the sun, if you like, is kind of done. The profile has fallen from such a height. I remember times where Wolves were looking for like 70 million quid for Adama Traore. I can't see that happening. I just can't see that happening. Barry says, I think Arsenal really need another striker. Why can't we keep Balogun? Because he wants to be the number 1. And at the moment, he isn't. And I don't know if you can convince him that he's going to start above Gabriel Jesus at this moment in time. So the reason why we can't keep him is because he is determined to play first-team football regularly next season. And I don't think he's convinced that he's going to get that at Arsenal. Jabu says, Tom, what's your opinion on Vieira now that the season is done? Is he the solution? It's difficult to see him as the solution. I want to see him succeed. I'd give him one more season max, but I'd also be tempted to move him on if a very good bid came in for him. So we'll have to wait and see on that one. The Smith song for Fatty, says TJR, is something that we could sing. Sam says, Tom, he is like the new Dembele, always injured, or is it just a Barca thing? Maybe it's a Barca thing, but I mean, Arsenal things and injuries are also fairly common, Sam, to be fair. Dan says, Tom, how do you feel about the majority of the top 10 of our FPL league has had Spurs players in them? I don't feel good, Dan. I'm going to be honest. I don't feel good. And if you're in the top 10 of the TGT league in fantasy, be that the big, wide league full of all of our listeners that are involved, or the members league, hang your heads in shame. I haven't had a single Spurs player in my team all season. No Kane, no Son, no Kulusevski, no Perisic, none of them. So if you are in the top 10, effectively, if you've had any Spurs player at any point, I think that you should probably have 100 points docked, maybe 200 points docked. Basically, however many points it needs to be below me in the table. That's what I think the punishment should be for having any Spurs player in the team. It's just the rules. You can't have a Spurs player in your fantasy team. You just can't. Does it put you at a disadvantage? No, because they're Spurs. And you should be able to find a way to win without having a Spurs player in your team. So hang your heads in shame. Goodness gracious me. Boss Buller says, Tom, thank you for a brilliant season. Contents you made, football worth watching. Can't wait for next season already, and I'll definitely be watching the morning transfer shows. Bless Gunners for life. Thank you so much, Boss Bubbler. Sorry. So thank you very much for tuning in. Really appreciate the support on the channel. Let's go to Alpha says, yes, disqualified. The rules were no Spurs players. I can't disqualify people. I'm not going to kick people because I think that the internal guilt will tear them apart more so than any other level of punishment. So, yeah, they know what they've done. Jonah says, hi, Tom. Have the rumours about Jeremy Pino gone cold? It seems so. I think he was looked at as a bit of an alternative for a wide player in January. We're going to have to be very careful this summer. Of course, we'll be trying to give our thoughts on all of the links to potential transfer targets this summer. But, yeah, it's going to be difficult not to sometimes be giving attention to rumours that, of course, may not be the case because there's just going to be so many this summer. Cole says, disagree, Tom. Me and my mate regularly put in Spurs players to jinx their next match, and it has worked. It may have worked this season, Carl, but I just wouldn't take that risk, mate. I just would not take that risk. I don't need a Spurs player scoring it pop up on my screen and me thinking in some positive way that they've helped my fantasy team. It's already bad enough when it's some other teams, but never, ever Spurs. Never, ever Spurs. No, just no. Not at all. Never. Done. Finished. Hang your heads in shame, people. Mickey NJX says, word around Feyenoord. Is Orkun Kokcu moving to Arsenal to replace Xhaka? This was even before the Leverkusen news got hot. Orkun Kokcu is a fantastic player. It's kind of a Gundogan-esque option. What do you think? He's been linked with Arsenal for a long time. And he's continued to stay with Feyenoord and obviously helped them to the league title this season and has impressed a hell of a lot. If Arsenal are looking to bring somebody in that creative, forward, progressive number 8 position, it could be Kokcu as a great option for them. But at the moment, I've not heard or suggested that's going to be the case. Anyway, thank you so much, guys, for tuning in. We're going to wrap up the show there. Really appreciate your time. As always, we'll be back bringing you continuous coverage of all of the transfer news across the season. There won't be a live show tomorrow at 8 a.m., but there may be a pre-recorded one. I'll wait and see if we can get one to you. But I hope you had a fantastic start to your week. I hope your week continues to be great. I hope your summer's fantastic. And I hope that you will continue to join us across the course of the summer transfer window to keep updated on everything going on every single day in the world of Arsenal transfers. Thank you for listening. Do drop a like on the video. Do subscribe to the channel if you're new. And as always, keep following us down at the Arsenal. Oh, I was going to say keep following us down the Arsenal way then. That was very close. You can follow me on the Arsenal way if you like. I'll be live there later. But as always, up the Arsenal.